What if your greatest breakthrough was waiting in the fields of your hardest season? This isn't just a love story. It's a story of loss, loyalty, and a woman who dared to follow hope into a foreign land. And when she did, she walked straight into destiny. This is the story of Ruth and Boaz in the Bible. But before we continue, please take a moment to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share it with someone you'll love to watch this video. Now that you've done that, let's dive into the full story. In the days when the judges ruled, there came a famine upon the land. Crops withered under relentless sun, hunger clawed at stomachs, and fear whispered through the hills of Bethlehem like a ghost in the wind. Lawlessness reigned, and the people cried out to the Lord for deliverance. Among the many who suffered was a man named Elimelech, a husband and father who bore the weight of despair upon his shoulders. He looked at his wife Naomi, her eyes hollow with worry, and at their sons Mahlon and Chilion, thin and restless with hunger. With heavy hearts and hopeful prayers, they left the land of their forefathers and journeyed eastward into Moab, a land foreign and forbidden in the memory of Israel, yet ripe with hope for bread. The journey was treacherous. They crossed arid plains and jagged cliffs. Nights brought biting cold. Days brought searing heat. Naomi clutched her sons close, murmuring prayers into their hair as they camped beneath the stars. When they reached Moab, it was not the land that welcomed them. It was survival. They found shelter. They found work. And in time, Mahlon and Chilion grew into men. Mahlon fell in love with Ruth, a woman of grace and strength. Her eyes held wisdom beyond her years. Chilion married Orpah, whose laughter once filled Naomi's home. For a while, joy returned to the family. Naomi's heart, though homesick, dared to hope again. But joy was fleeting. Elimelech, strong and proud, grew weak. One morning he did not rise. He was buried under Moabite soil. Mahlon followed, his laughter silenced by sickness. Then Chilion, 3 graves, 3 silent sorrows. Naomi stood alone, a foreign widow with 2 childless daughters-in-law. All that she had, love, legacy, future, was gone. The seasons passed in a blur of mourning. Then came a whisper, a rumor that stirred Naomi from her sorrow. The Lord had visited his people. There was bread once more in Bethlehem. She stood at dawn, wrapped in grief, and told Ruth and Orpah of her decision. I must go back. My bones ache for home. You, my daughters, you must stay. Return to your mother's homes. Remarry. Live. The Lord deal kindly with you, as you have dealt with the dead and with me. Tears spilled. The 3 women embraced. The road split at the border. With tear-streaked cheeks, kissed Naomi goodbye. Her footsteps faded into the dust, but Ruth remained. Her hands held Naomi's tightly. Her voice did not tremble, it declared. Do not urge me to leave you or to turn back. Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me. Naomi stared into her eyes and saw something unmovable, a covenant, a companion. She said no more. Together they stepped into uncertainty. 2 widows, bound not by blood, but by faith, love, and the fierce grip of loyalty. The road back to Bethlehem was long and hard. Ruth gathered roots and herbs for their meals. Naomi walked with slumped shoulders and eyes fixed on the past. But Ruth looked forward, her spirit unshaken. When they entered the city, the air buzzed. The women of the town paused their grinding, their baking, their drawing of water. Is this Naomi? Could it be? She had aged. Sorrow lined her face. Her hands trembled. Do not call me Naomi pleasant. Call me Mara bitter. The Almighty has dealt very bitterly with me. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. And yet beside her stood Ruth, young, silent, devoted. A seed of hope beside a tree bowed with grief. They arrived at the beginning of the barley harvest when first fruits were gathered and songs began in the fields. And though Naomi could not yet see it, the God she thought had abandoned her had already begun to write redemption in the pages of her story. The next morning, as sunlight stretched across Bethlehem's hills, Ruth rose before dawn. Naomi, still weary and uncertain, blessed her quietly. Go, my daughter. May you find favor in someone's eyes. Ruth wrapped herself modestly and stepped out into the unfamiliar fields of a land not her own. She knew no one. She was an outsider, a Moabite. But her steps were steady, her heart full of quiet courage. She came to a field bordered with golden barley. She asked the overseer for permission to glean behind the harvesters, humbling herself to collect what others left behind. The man agreed, and she worked relentlessly, bending, gathering, tying her back aching, her hands scratched by stubble. But Ruth was not alone. Unseen eyes watched her path. Providence guided her to a field that belonged to Boaz, a man of valor and integrity, a kinsman of Naomi's late husband. Boaz returned from the city and greeted his workers. "The Lord be with you." "Workers, the Lord bless you." His eyes fell on the woman gleaning at the edge of the field. "Boaz, whose young woman is this?" "She is the Moabite who came back with Naomi from Moab. She asked to glean and has worked from morning until now, with only a short rest." Boaz, intrigued and moved by what he had heard, walked toward Ruth. "Boaz, listen, my daughter. Do not glean in another field or go away from here. Stay with my servant girls. Watch the field where the men are harvesting and follow after the women. I have told the men not to lay a hand on you, and whenever you are thirsty, go and drink from the jars the workers have filled." Ruth dropped to her knees, overwhelmed. "Why have I found favor in your eyes, that you notice me, a foreigner, Boaz? I've been told all about what you've done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, how you left your father and mother in your homeland and came to live with a people you did not know. May the Lord repay you for what you have done. May you be richly rewarded by the God of Israel, under whose wings you have come to take refuge." Boaz invited her to eat with his workers. He offered her roasted grain, and she ate until she was satisfied. Then he instructed his men to leave behind extra stalks for her, to make her labor easier. That evening, Ruth returned to Naomi, her arms heavy with barley, her heart full of wonder. When Naomi saw the bounty, she was speechless. The sun lit Ruth's face, radiant with gratitude. "Where did you glean today? Blessed be the man who noticed you. The name of the man I worked with today is Boaz. The Lord bless him. That man is a relative of ours, one of our redeemers." Hope sparked in Naomi's heart like fire in dry wood. Ruth continued gleaning in Boaz's fields through the end of the barley and wheat harvests. Each evening she returned with more grain, and with it, Naomi's spirit slowly revived. One evening, Naomi's voice trembled with urgency and love. "Naomi, my daughter, shall I not seek a home for you, that it may go well with you? Is not Boaz a relative of ours, whose young women you have been with? Tonight he will be winnowing barley on the threshing floor. Wash, anoint yourself, put on your best cloak, and go down. Do not make yourself known until he has finished eating and drinking. Then observe where he lies down. Go, uncover his feet, and lie down. He will tell you what to do." The plan was bold, yet built upon custom and humility. Ruth obeyed without fear. The night was cool. The stars shimmered like silver. Ruth stood in silence until Boaz had eaten, drunk, and fallen asleep near the grain. She tiptoed to his feet, uncovered them, and lay down. In the middle of the night, Boaz stirred. He turned and was startled. Boaz said, "Who are you?" Ruth answered, "I am Ruth, your servant. Spread the corner of your garment over me, for you are a redeemer." The moment hung heavy with honor and vulnerability. Boaz sat up. Boaz said to her, "The Lord bless you, my daughter. You have shown more kindness now than before, not chasing after younger men, whether rich or poor. And now, fear not. I will do for you all that you ask. Everyone in town knows that you are a woman of noble character, yet there is one closer than I who has the first right to redeem. If he redeems you, well and good. If not, as surely as the Lord lives, I will. Lie here until morning." Before the sun rose, Boaz filled Ruth's shawl with 6 measures of barley. He said to Ruth, "Do not go back to your mother-in-law empty-handed." Ruth returned, her steps light, but her heart racing. Naomi greeted her at the door. "How did it go, my daughter?" Ruth told her everything. "Wait, my daughter, until you learn how the matter turns out. The man will not rest until the matter is settled today." And in that waiting, both women held their breath, one young with expectation, the other aged with longing. God was moving. The story was not over. It was only beginning. With the first light of morning, Boaz rose with purpose. He wrapped his cloak around him, his heart resolved. He walked to the gate of Bethlehem, the place of justice where deals were made and truth was witnessed. He sat at the gate and called for 10 elders to sit with him, respected men of the city. And then came the man who was first in line to redeem the property of Elimelech, an unnamed kinsman. Boaz said to the kinsman, Naomi, who has returned from Moab, is selling the land that belonged to our brother Elimelech. I thought I should bring the matter to your attention. If you will redeem it, do so. But if not, tell me, for no one has the right to do it except you and then me." The kinsman said to him, "I will redeem it." Then Boaz, "On the day you acquire the land from Naomi, you also acquire Ruth the Moabite, the widow of the dead man, in order to maintain the name of the dead with his property." The man hesitated. His smile faded. "Kinsman, then I cannot redeem it. It might endanger my own estate. You redeem it yourself." "I cannot do it." To confirm the transaction, the man took off his sandal and handed it to Boaz, a symbol of transfer and honor among the Israelites. Boaz, lifting the sandal high before the elders and all those gathered, "You are witnesses this day that I have bought from Naomi all that belonged to Elimelech, Mahlon, and Chilion. And I have also acquired Ruth the Moabite, the widow of Mahlon, to be my wife, to maintain the name of the dead with his inheritance." The elders and townspeople responded with joy. "We are witnesses. May the Lord make the woman who is coming into your home like Rachel and Leah, who together built the house of Israel. May your household be like that of Perez, for whom Tamar bore to Judah." And so, beneath the sun and in the sight of God and man, Ruth and Boaz were betrothed not by chance, but by covenant. A son is born. Naomi's joy restored time past. In Boaz's house, laughter echoed again, and the Lord, who had once emptied Naomi's arms, now filled them. The Lord enabled Ruth to conceive, and she gave birth to a son. The streets of Bethlehem rejoiced with her. The same women who once whispered about Naomi now sang blessings over her life. "Praise be to the Lord, who has not left you this day without a redeemer. May he become famous throughout Israel. He will renew your life and sustain you in your old age. For your daughter-in-law, who loves you and is better to you than 7 sons, has given him birth." They placed the child, small and soft and full of promise, into Naomi's aged arms. Tears ran down her cheeks, tears of joy, not bitterness. She held him close and rocked him gently. The women of the neighborhood gave him a name. "He shall be called Obed." Obed grew and would become the father of Jesse, the father of David, the shepherd who would become king. And from David's line, in that same small town of Bethlehem, would come the Christ. The story of Ruth is a tapestry woven by divine fingers. From famine to harvest, from grief to joy, from foreigner to family, Ruth's journey reminds us that God sees the unseen, lifts the lowly, and brings forth legacy from loss. So wherever you are, whoever you are, take heart. If you feel like Ruth, wandering in an unfamiliar land, if you feel like Naomi, emptied by sorrow, remember this: God is not finished with your story. Redemption is nearer than you think. Just as Ruth found her place under Boaz's wings, so too can you find shelter in the wings of the Redeemer who never sleeps. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends and family. And also drop a comment below to tell us what you think. We would love to hear from you. Until next time, stay blessed.